Welcome back to our channel, the place where hidden chapters, royal secrets, and the stories the palace won't publish finally come to light. Today we bring you a breaking news: exposed Meghan's shadow network of vile trolls tormenting the royals. Shocking probe. According to a recent extensive study, Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, is linked to a prominent internet commentator who has repeatedly and often viciously attacked the royal family and its critics. The story claims that a social media user named JTB, a member of the Sussex squad of online fans of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, is at the core of the scandal. The inquiry found evidence that Duchess-controlled accounts interacted with JTB's content. These conversations have reignited debate over the Sussexes' relationship with digital followers in monarchy discussion online. The couple's stated commitments to online health have been questioned after those charges. Critics say the Sussexes' unwillingness to denounce suspected violent or abusive behavior undermines their efforts to combat online hatred and misinformation. The argument spans reputational management, advocacy, ethics, and public figure expectations for mass audience mobilization, not just social media etiquette. The monarchy's future is discussed, including Prince William's rumored ambitions for a reduced royal family and Prince Andrew's constitutional and legal issues. Thus, the case illustrates how individual behavior and institutional strategy interact in an age when social media signals have significant symbolic and material effects. The investigation centers on JTB and his films and posts attacking Lady Colin Campbell, a controversial royal commentator. Jamaican-born and British Lady Colin Campbell is an author, socialite, and media figure who wrote a popular biography of Princess Diana in the 1990s and has commented on royal issues. The report included many tapes of JTB attacking Lady Campbell, questioning her social standing and Britishness. He calls her not British aristocracy, not palace-raised royalty, and says she came from a strict old-world merchant family in Jamaica that moved to London for social status, which never completely welcomed her. He said this exclusion sculpted the bitterness she weaponizes today against Meghan and Harry, according to the story. The report describes Lady Colin's background to show how JTB attacks her, questioning her social origins, and using class and belonging insinuations to undermine her credibility. In modern internet conversation, opponents dispute a commentator's status intentions or identity rather than their claims. The research uses these videos to show that JTB's discourse is more about destructive personalizing than substantial disagreement. The research documents many examples of this rhetorical pattern to indicate that such personalization is part of a hostile approach to opponents that prioritizes humiliation over refutation. According to the investigation, JTB promptly questioned Lady Campbell's pedigree, age, health, and mental state. He called her the corpse formerly known as Lady Colin Campbell and said her comments came from dementia and old grudges and delusions she's been nursing for decades. The investigation's authors noted that his language was intentionally demeaning and rhetorical. The research highlights the cumulative effect of such language, a continual stream of disparaging epithets and insinuations that humiliate rather than challenge reasoned reasoning. It shows how repetition and derision can damage a target's reputation, even when meaningful rebuttals would be more relevant. After publicly comparing Lady Campbell's family to Meghan Markle, JTB's statements may be the most inciting. In that video, he says, Meghan represents everything she couldn't hang on to, a successful and loving marriage with her own biological children because Lady C had to adopt hers. Critics who defend Lady Campbell call the remark cruel and gratuitous, attacking private issues like adoption and fertility. Lady Campbell's supporters stress that she has always been honest and proud of her adoption, and that the comments were repulsive rather than political or historical criticism. Personal and intimate lines of attack can drive online confrontation from argument to harassment, according to the survey. Lady Campbell's supporters stated that her public criticisms of the Duchess of Sussex are not based on personal animus or jealousy. They note that she has questioned public record, notably the official narratives surrounding Archie and Lilibet's births, which relate to succession and constitutional transparency. Her supporters describe some of her comments as public interest criticism on the monarchy's official declarations and practices, not vengeful attacks. These contradictory statements are recorded to show the complex terrain What one observer sees as legitimate public fact-checking, another as insane animosity, and another as fuel for online opponents. The paper juxtaposes these readings to demonstrate how similar speech acts can be interpreted differently depending on the observer and the debate's stakes. Critics also noted that several of JTB's videos were released while Lady Campbell was hospitalized for a broken pelvis, which they said underscored the personal nature of his attacks and showed a lack of basic decency. According to the research, that juxtaposition highlighted the most troubling ethical aspects of such comments, such as some online actors' readiness to amplify humiliation during times of personal vulnerability and the speed at which such content can spread across platforms. Digital platforms can enable and amplify this kind of harm through algorithmic amplification, network sharing, and performative anger that rewards attention-grabbing rhetoric. The assertion that JTB is not independent of the Duchess of Sussex may be the most significant in the probe. Screenshots from the Sidley twins demonstrate that Meghan Markle-controlled accounts liked and reshared JTB's posts, according to the article. A screenshot in the story showed a like from Meghan Markle's private Instagram account, according to observers. Another snapshot appeared to suggest that, as ever, a Duchess lifestyle business republished JTB content in an Instagram story. Likes and reshares are common ways for users to endorse or show interest in another user's content on Instagram stories, which last 24 hours. The report makes clear why such contacts are meaningful. Social media celebrities can maintain varied levels of detachment from their many accounts. Team-managed celebrity accounts, especially those involved in public advocacy, make it hard to separate true personal interaction from staff-managed page actions. Despite this ambiguity, the researchers argue that the Duchess's rarity or selectivity, the pattern of repetitive engagement, and the presence of certain accounts in multiple screenshots suggest intentionality to some observers. They underline that while none of these aspects is definite, they establish a pattern that opponents say is hard to dismiss. According to the article, JTB seemed to enjoy the recognition. He posted screenshots saying he was excited because Meghan Markle-affiliated accounts liked his work. Investigators and critics consider such interactions significant for various reasons. Some observers believe that any interaction would likely be the result of an intentional search for that user or specific posts, as the Duchess's public accounts do not follow any other accounts. The paper states that this prediction relies on assumptions about how the Duchess or her staff uses digital platforms, but detractors warn that snapshots can mislead without account logs or administrative records. The allegation claims that Meghan Markle intentionally seeks out and tacitly endorses content from one of the harshest online critics of the royal family and her critics by liking or resharing it. According to the report, one of the Sidley twins said, "This is someone who Meghan has re-grammed, re-Instagrammed. Liked. She views all his videos. Yes, and he shows proof that she does. He's stupid enough to take screenshots." They argue that such a public association with rhetorical vitriol damages the Duchess's credibility as a campaigner against online hate. In the tape referenced by investigators, one of the twins says, "You can't constantly like hate speech," hinting that repeated exposure to offensive content could support claims that the Sussexes should be stripped of their royal titles. Visible digital interaction may undermine toxicity advocacy by serving as a symbolic endorsement. The study notes that JTB targets top royal family members as well as Lady Colin Campbell. JTB called Queen Camilla "Cow Miller" and compared her popularity to the Duchess of Sussex, according to investigators. If Meghan engages with such content, she may indirectly endorse attacks on her extended family, including the Queen consort, critics say. The investigation juxtaposes these episodes with the public personas of the main figures to show how volatile and multidirectional online vitriol can be protective. Networks can produce content that targets a wider audience, complicating any neat victim-defender narrative. Multiple directions allies attacking allies or casting a wide net of hostility make online supporter cultures hard to police or manage coherently from the center. This controversy is linked to the Sussex Squad, a diverse but aggressive online network of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle fans. The group is decentralized yet organized via hashtags, content cycles, and a desire to defend the pair from critics. In that diversity of voices, the report distinguishes between positive advocacy and the squad's more aggressive tactics, such as online harassment, doxing of perceived opponents, and sustained campaigns to discredit journalists and royal commentators. Some see the organization as a grassroots mobilization against journalistic injustice and racialized treatment of the Duchess, while others see it as a network that tolerates or encourages bullying and harassment. Such online communities are complex and worth examining because they show how current public discussion is organized and policed. Supporter movements can quickly mobilize for just or underrepresented causes, but they can also empower aggressive actors whose standards differ from the central figures. The inquiry shows this ambivalence, a passionate and protective base can accelerate criticism into harassment. That intricacy affects public figures who use grassroots advocacy to spread their beliefs but claim to promote civility and truth online. In the age of influencer politics, identity emotion and network effects often overcome deliberation and institutional restraints which the Sussexes face. Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network and investigative contributor, has criticized this phenomenon. Brittany claimed that Meghan Markle created the Sussex Squad, citing Prince Harry's 2016 public letter condemning a wave of abuse and harassment directed at his then-girlfriend and calling out racial undertones of comment pieces. That public defense, followed by Harry and Meghan's Oprah Winfrey interview, claims of racism catalyzed a segment of the group. Brittany said some internet fans employ ad hominem attacks on critics rather than addressing their arguments. They automatically take what you are offering as, let's say, legit criticism of Harry and Meghan and immediately go with an ad hominem attack and misdirecting your actual argument, she said. They can't actually argue you on the merits of your argument. They have to attack you personally because that's the only option that they have, she said. I've had to deal with them. I know many others have as well. And it's just so incredibly ugly, the things that they come up with, how they're trying to find your friends. Brittany's statement is part of a larger denunciation from journalists and pundits who have faced the squad's abuse. The inquiry gathers such testimony to show that the epidemic has affected royal reporters. These testimonies' emotional tone, the sense of being targeted, doxxed, and pursued, argues that public discourse about the Sussexes has sometimes devolved into a coercive and punitive dynamic that resembles political culture wars rather than reasoned media engagement. The paper says that the cumulative effect has created a frightening atmosphere that makes some commenters self-censor or flee from debate rather than face personal attacks. Several investigators have criticized the Sussexes for failing to publicly denounce their most radical supporters. The Archewell Foundation's stated goals conflict with this lack of denunciation. After retiring from royal duties, the pair created Archewell, a nonprofit that fights disinformation and promotes compassion online. Critics claim the couple's failure to remove themselves from their fans' harassment and hostility contradicts their institutional goals. Silence is tacit assent to these critics. Sussex backers say it's impossible and unfair to hold public people accountable for their supporters' online behavior in decentralized forums. Many movements and personalities gain from broad endorsement while disavowing specific misdeeds. The report details that issue without deciding it, showing how social media irresponsibility disputes are political. The couple's opponents say the lack of a repeated denunciation, rather than a broad remark about internet hate, shows indifference or cooperation. For defenders, expecting the couple to police the numerous autonomous supporters' accounts is unrealistic and risks imposing an unachievable level of control. The documentary report also highlights Christopher Bowsey as a conduit between the Sussexes and certain online communities. Bowsey, a data analyst, founded Bot Sentinel to track online disinformation and harassment. In the 2022 Netflix docuseries, Harry and Meghan, he fiercely defends the couple and criticizes a hate campaign against them. By featuring Bowsey and his work prominently in the documentary, critics say the Duchess and Duke of Sussex legitimized not only the analytic task of identifying bots and coordinated harassment, but also the more combative online networks that mobilize in their defense. Critics said Bowsey's inclusion in the series was a public endorsement of the online ecology he interacts with, which can include nasty actors. Bowsey and his supporters argue that exposing coordinated disinformation operations is a public service, and that a documentary about the couple's press antagonism is crucial context. The investigation shows how legitimate digital advocacy, identifying and combating inauthentic amplification and malicious bots, can become entangled with partisan or abusive networks when aggressive human actors seize the narrative. The paper repeatedly emphasizes the challenge of separating defensive research-driven action from offensive, crowd-driven harassment in overlapping online venues. Analytics and monitoring do not protect a campaign from co-optation by hostile parties. Squad members' techniques and rhetorical strategies are cited by critics as a sign of heated online debate. When they cannot substantively counter critics, some proponents use personal attacks on looks genealogy or personal circumstances, according to Brittany and others. The research says that this tendency shows a lack of constitutional convention and royal protocol knowledge and a willingness to use ad hominem fury instead of argumentation. The paper claims that such rhetorical tendencies impair public comprehension and move debate from institutional issues to personal scandal and rumor. The inquiry places the scandal in the context of a monarchy-shaping discussion beyond social media and reputational management. Several analysts linked the claimed internet endorsements to news that Prince William is considering massive institutional reforms to prepare for succession. The investigative piece relied on News Nation's Paula Frolick to allege that the Prince of Wales wants a slimmed-down monarchy. Frolick says, Prince William is gearing up to become king sooner rather than later, I'm told, and his vision for the monarchy is going to look very different from his father, King Charles's reign. This vision could reduce the number of titled working royals. The report suggested that King William V, a future king, could strip various extended family members of their titles. According to the story, Harry and Meghan will lose their titles as well as Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie. The crown might justify the change as part of a modernizing effort rather than as a punishment. By stripping ducal and princess titles from various family members, even those who left voluntarily and controversially, the crown could characterize the reform as structural rather than vindictive. This would depersonalize the measure and allow it to be presented as a policy to clearly define who represents the monarchy officially. Strategically, a leaner monarchy would reduce reputational risk, analysts said. Stripping titles from persons who no longer undertake official activities would clarify the line between crown servants and private advocates. Losing the Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles would damage the Sussex's brand, which is partly dependent on their royal position. Losing titles would affect culture and business, since public speaking book deals and media initiatives can capitalize on their symbolic authority. Removing them would at least linguistically signify a greater separation between ordinary citizens and institutionally sanctioned crown officials, changing how popular culture and commercial markets view such individuals. While future constitutional and monarchical policies may reduce ducal titles, the report also addressed Prince Andrew, the Duke of York's legal and reputational issues. Andrew's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender, has plagued the royal family. The inquiry used new content from royal blogger Tom Sykes of The Royalist to summarize current dynamics. In the piece, the House Oversight Committee requests that Prince Andrew give a deposition or transcribed interview about his contact with Epstein. Andrew has refused to cooperate, according to investigative reporting. A supporter of the Duke called the congressional panel's tactics showboating and issuing self-aggrandizing press releases, and said committee members knew Andrew would not testify and could not be forced to. The same source dismissed UK Labour leader Keir Starmer's appeals for cooperation, indicating political considerations and opportunism underlie some of the public pressure. The report next addresses Andrew's defenders' more delicate constitutional argument that he may never be punished in the UK, the monarch's involvement in any criminal case. The story alleges that King Charles III, then Prince of Wales, knew of and signed off on the payment of $12 million Prince Andrew made to his accuser, Virginia Giuffre, as part of a settlement. Andrew's backers say he may argue that he addressed such topics with his brother, the present king, in a British tribunal. If a defendant claims the reigning king is a material witness to case events, the legal process may face an exceptional and constitutionally problematic issue. The investigation explains why this is so difficult. British prosecutions are conducted in the name of the Crown, historically Rex, or Regina, and now the King. The report recalls the 1998 case against Princess Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell, To illustrate constitutional complexity, Queen Elizabeth II intervened, recalling a discussion in which Burrell assured her he was safeguarding Diana's belongings, unraveling the case. Placing the king as a material witness in a case launched in the monarch's name generated an insurmountable legal hurdle that brought the prosecution to an end. According to the BBC, Andrew's backers contend that the Duke of York has the same constitutional tripwire. If he claimed he discussed settlements with his brother, the king may be called as a key witness. They argue that inviting a reigning monarch to testify in his own court would be impossible under the British judicial system and Crown administrative infrastructure. The research says that the palace has suppressed Andrew and minimized judicial exposure rather than face the dispute in court. Several factors inform that method, the paper indicates. Public attention has built a virtual scaffold of public opinion against the Duke, so institutions are reluctant to start a public trial that would harm the monarchy. Second, the constitutional problem of the sovereign as a witness is acknowledged. Thirdly, private settlement, public sidelining, and careful media handling are preferred to open legal contestation. Prince Andrew's position is a semi-permanent shelf problem for the royal household that continues to cost reputation, even though it is restricted from the public procedural stage. The analysis shows that institutional choices are legal and political. How the palace handles high-profile missteps or alleged wrongdoing affects monarchy trust. A long history of private settlements and quiet sidelining might reduce controversy, but also raise concerns about unequal responsibility and opacity. Some think that a visible judicial reckoning, while detrimental in the short term, restores fairness and openness. The report suggests that the Crown prefers short-term containment and long-term stability. It raises normative problems concerning institutions' trade-offs when facing member claims. The alleged digital engagements between the Duchess of Sussex and a combative online commentator, the tactics and temperament of a faction of the Sussex Squad, the possibility of structural reform to the monarchy under a future King William I, and Prince Andrew's constitutional and legal entanglements show an institution facing multiple and overlapping challenges. If true, Meghan Markle's alleged toxic online behavior would raise crucial questions about personal advocacy and responsibility for online supporters. However, stories regarding Prince William's vision for a streamlined monarchy imply that royal functions and titles may be reinterpreted in the coming reign. The case of Prince Andrew, who may be immune from prosecution or avoid court examination, illustrates the conflict between familial ties, legal process, and constitutional principle. The inquiry does not settle every claim. It presents papers, screenshots, testimonials, and reporting to create a risk and ambiguity narrative. Instead of drawing conclusions, it emphasizes connections and implications. It asks readers to consider how modern institutions, particularly hereditary ones, that are also public brands, navigate reputational threats exacerbated by social media's scale and speed, an increasingly combative digital public square, and royal personages' unique constitutional constraints. The investigation highlights the monarchy's multifaceted crisis, reputational risks from wives and sons, digital dynamics that can amplify support and abuse, and constitutional structures that can protect and complicate accountability. How the monarchy handles internal family disputes, external public pressure, and digital public life norms will determine how well it responds, which could affect individual fortunes in the institution itself. The report's doubts will certainly persist regardless of any screenshot or repost's authenticity. They raise bigger questions regarding digital responsibility. Should public personalities be held liable for their supporters' actions? Do institutions have to monitor decentralized fan groups? How does a constitutional monarchy balance its members' private interests and obligations with public expectations of transparency and propriety? These are policy dilemmas that span multiple episodes and will test the royal household's tactical responses, as well as contemporary society's legal, ethical, and communicative frameworks for fame accountability and the damage of unchecked online vitriol. The report encourages reflection rather than final judgment. It describes the interpersonal, institutional, digital, and constitutional pressures surrounding the British royal family. How the monarchy handles those tensions may decide whether it survives media scrutiny and online polarization or becomes brittle. The dilemmas raised by these allegations will likely shape debates about public conduct, institutional responsibility, and advocacy in an age when a single, repost or viral video can amplify grievances and recalibrate reputations across continents and constituencies. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and goodbye for the time being.